Who were the Castaways of Tromelin Island, a historical humans production? Tromelin Island is a small flat island 280 miles east of Madagascar, the nearest landmass. It is approximately 200 acres of territory stretched to 1.1 miles at its longest by 0.43 miles at its widest. Tromelin is recognized as a French overseas territory in the Indian Ocean, but this claim is contested by the nation of Mauritius, which also claims the island as its own. It is presently uninhabited and home to only a meteorological station, an old airstrip, and a watchtower. In 1761, a ship carrying illegally enslaved Malagasy bound for Mauritius wrecked on the island. The survivors of this wreck lived on the desolate island for 15 years. This begs the question, who were the castaways of Tromelin Island? On the night of July 31st, 1761, the French East India Company vessel Le Toule was bound for the French colony on the island of Mauritius with 160 Malagasy slaves in its hold to feed the island's plantation economy. That night, sharp winds between 15 and 20 knots erupted and, with the ship's maps disputing the location of Tromelin Island, pushed La Toule onto a reef at the island's north end. Of the 140-man crew of La Toule, 123 made it onto the shore of Tromelin, while only between 60 and 80 of the 160 slaves trapped in La Toule's cargo hold managed to do the same. Once on the island, de Lefago, captain of La Toule, apparently had a mental breakdown. Command fell to his first officer, Duvernay. Under the leadership of Duvernay, the survivors managed to salvage food, tools, and timber, as well as erect a well, an oven furnace, and separate camps for the sailors and slaves. 2 months later, Duvernay and the crew of La Toule sailed from Tromelin Island on board the makeshift construct vessel La Providence. Duvernay promised the marooned slaves another vessel be sent to retrieve them. It never came. After 4 days of sailing, La Providence reached Madagascar. Once the crew of La Toule were transferred to Mauritius to face judgment for their attempt to bring slaves to Mauritius, a cargo which La Toule had not been authorized to carry to an island which had been banned the import of slaves. Though Duvernay argued for a ship to retrieve the stranded slaves, their plight was quickly forgotten amid the turmoil of the 7 Years' War and looming bankruptcy of the French East India Company. Duvernay continued to argue for the rescue of the stranded Malagasy slaves, and in 1772, the Minister of Marine Affairs dispatched La Tourelle to retrieve the castaways. La Tourelle arrived at Tromelin in 1775, but it, along with the next two vessels sent, was unable to penetrate the island's coastal reefs. On November 29, 1776, La Dauphine, captained by a man who would give Tromelin Island its name, managed to reach the island. There, of approximately 80 Malagasy slaves marooned over 15 years ago on the island, La Dauphine found only 7 women and 1 8-month-old boy. With much of the testimony of survivors of Tromelin and the records of La Dauphine lost, it has been up to 21st century archaeologists to reconstruct the lives and fates of many of the castaways of Tromelin Island. It is currently believed that the majority of the Malagasy slaves stranded on the island died within the first year of their predicament, with a population of some 15 survivors living on Tromelin for the majority of the marooning. What testimony does survive indicate that a band of 18 survivors left the island a short time after their abandonment of the crew of La Toule. It is unknown if any of them managed to reach Madagascar. Just months before a rescue ship arrived, a group of 3 men and 3 women, along with a sailor marooned on the island from La Tourelle's failed rescue attempt, set sail from the island on a raft with a sail of woven feathers and were never heard from again. The castaways established their settlement at the highest point of the island, approximately 25 meters above sea level. There they survived eating birds and turtles, a taboo in Malagasy culture, using salvage goods from the wreck of La Toule, including copper bowls that they had restored to functionality, a notoriously difficult task with copper materials. Unfortunately, the main settlement of the castaways was built over during the construction of the island's meteorological station. What has been discovered were several stone buildings that show evidence of daily activity. Stone structures in Malagasy culture are reserved for the dead. In effect, the castaways were living in what they would have traditionally called a tomb. Intriguingly, with the exception of 2 bodies moved and reburied during the construction of the meteorological station in 1950, No dead have been found on the island. The castaways of Tromelin were illegally enslaved Malagasy people who were forced to survive on a remote and barren island from 1761 to 1776, with only the resources of a single shipwreck and their own wits to keep them alive. Of approximately 80 people, only 7 women and 1 newborn child survived the affair. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like down below and be sure to subscribe for more future content. And if there is a topic that you would like to see, be sure to leave a comment down below. And be sure to check out all of our social medias listed down below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.